Hi, Anthony Manganiello here, and I want to talk to you about how you can prove that you've actually settled your accounts. Now, if you're on a debt settlement program, settling your accounts, it's the obvious objective. The question becomes, how can you ensure that you'll have the proper ammunition to protect yourself from future collections activity on accounts that you've already settled? I know what you're thinking. Why the heck would I need to do that? I mean, after an account is settled, it's settled, right? Well, that's what you'd like to think, but consider this. Each month, thousands and thousands of people, just like you, are going through collections, the collections process. And according to CardHub.com in 2013, over 5% of credit cards were either delinquent or charged off. Now, while that may sound like a small percentage, you need to realize it's a small percentage of a huge number. CreditCards.com reports that in the third quarter of 2013, there were over 391 million credit cards floating around the wallets of everyday people just like you. 5% of that number, it's like almost 20 million accounts. So the likelihood that one of your accounts that you've settled slipping through the cracks, well, it exists. And you need to make sure that you're protected from that possibility. Now, fortunately, it's easy to do if, when you settle your accounts, you have the following documentation. Number 1, the settlement letter or the letter of agreement. Number 2, the canceled check or the canceled checks if it's a multi-pay settlement. And number 3, proof that the checks were received on time via some form of shipment tracking. Every check you send to satisfy a settlement, it should be sent via some form of traceable delivery. And the fact that thousands of files like yours are going through the delinquency process at the same time as yours can cause your settled accounts to be recorded inaccurately. And if that happens, you may receive notification later on that an account you've actually settled still appears outstanding and that you're still responsible for it. However, if you have these 3 pieces of documentation, you'll be able to prove that there was a new agreement, and that you satisfy the terms of that agreement, and that the account was recorded inaccurately, and demand that it be corrected. Having the settlement letter proves that your creditor or collector agreed to the settlement. Having the canceled checks, well, that proves that you made the necessary payments, and the creditor agreed to receive those payments because the checks were cashed. And having proof that all of those checks were received on time proves that you fully satisfied the terms outlined in the settlement or agreement letter. On another note, if the canceled check stipulates that the check was cashed on or before the dates outlined in the settlement letter, then proving that they were received on time, well, it may not be necessary. But when you consider that your one little check is just one check in a huge pile of other checks, the chance that your check being deposited before the stipulated date in the settlement letter, it's kind of slim. So you'll want to be sure that you have proof that it arrived on time. If you can do that, you're as good as gold. So as you settle each account, be sure that you or the settlement company you've hired is collecting and keeping this kind of documentation for future use if necessary. I'm Anthony Manganiello for BestDebtCompanys.com, and I'll see you next time.